Hey everyone, we are back with another update video for both our main projects, DaemonClaw and MetroSiege, and we'll just dive right in and start with MetroSiege. I will edit video footage as I'm talking here of the game. In level 2, as you may know, there is an enemy called Bile who is shirtless, and he had a mohawk, and he was really missing something, and that was tats. So he's all tatted up now. Aside from that, from a graphical standpoint, I've made some progress on 3 other environments, one of them being a really cool ferry boat level that takes place near the end of the game. We can't show you any of those levels yet until they're a little further along both in programming and art, but it's really fun and exciting to come up with all the different ways to get in as much parallax effect and color in these levels as we go. So I look forward to that in upcoming updates.
I understand why you named him Bile, being shirtless riding the subway. You know?
Yeah. And another cool thing going on in MetroSiege is the programmer Alex has made big advancements in the online multiplayer, so you will be able to play well with someone across the globe, but even cross-platform. So in one of the most recent tests, not only was I able to play here in France on an emulated Amiga on PC, but I was playing with Alex, who's in Australia, and he was on a real Amiga 1200. And then recently he tested between a real Amiga and an iPad. Alright, so the thing that has been going on with DaemonClaw is I can now go into options, and you may have already noticed you could switch between windowed and full screen mode, and there are now the actual different skins that we made for the border, the retro themed standard Amiga, which is the light version, the dark version, which is like CD-TV or CD32, and then just a clear black border. And the same thing with buttons. There's the version that matches CD32 and CD-TV, and then light buttons which match classic Amigas, and then basic, which is just a more typical mobile device touch buttons that can work really well with the black border. Just to show you guys this working in game, so let me switch to the dark theme, click done. So it's very fun to see the game with this different framing around it. And so let's actually click to simulate touching a touchscreen so you guys can see that's all working. If you start controlling with a real controller, the touch buttons automatically disappear since obviously you don't need them. And aside from getting that new setting screen working, I fixed a lot of fairly minor things, certainly not game breakers, but just doing polish everywhere I can. And then the other levels after level 2 had kind of fallen behind since we were focusing on level 1 and the boss fight in level 2. So I've started catching them up in functionality. Like the last time we had left off with those later levels 3 and 4, we didn't have that intro thing yet where the HUD slides down while the character walks in from the left to the right. So I got that working. Same thing with like the music. If you recall, there's my beautiful little CD icon there that has the variable that tells the game what normal song and what powered up song to play for that level. So I got those in the other levels, and basically I'm just getting those all working. And then I noticed a couple of graphical tweaks I wanted to make. It's kind of our attitude from a pixel art standpoint for this game. Even though we're making this game in Construct 3 for modern platforms, it will eventually be ported to classic Amiga computers, so we're very carefully following the actual graphical constraints of Amiga computers. But despite those color constraints, we had this kind of attitude that we don't want any visible dithering in the game that is not very intentional for texture that actually makes it look better in those things for like dirt and maybe some areas of rock. But basically we don't want it to ever look like dithering is being used to compensate for a lack of having enough colors. And then if you look at, I'll try to put in old footage of the way these waterfalls used to look. What I was doing was alternating between 2 frames very quickly with a dither mesh, that checkerboard pattern. And it worked, but it always bothered bothered me a little that you could still see the checker pattern a bit. So then I happened to remember something they had done in the original Sonic games on the Genesis, and that was that they used alternating columns of pixels instead of a dither mesh for some of their waterfall effects, and it looks much more natural. You don't have a consistent checkerboard pattern, and it looks more consistent with falling water in vertical lines. So it almost has like a built-in motion blur effect, and I'll run the level. I put some waterfalls right up in the beginning of the level so I can quickly show everyone. So there you can see, I'm not sure how this will hold up in the recording, but at full frame rate, this looks much, much better. You can't see any weirdness, any dither mesh, and it looks way more convincingly like just it's semi-translucent water. So a big improvement. And then let's go into level 2. Little extra attention to detail we did. Originally, when you landed, it would make a little dust cloud appear near your feet. But then once we made level 2 so different with the snow, it just looked ridiculous for kind of dirt-colored dust to appear when he landed. So we actually programmed it so that there can be a different kind of particle effect at his feet. And I used to have an old version of kind of snow particle effect when you land, but I had used some of the too dark blue colors in it, so it didn't look right. And then it went just into too much of a standard dither mesh in its final frame, which also didn't look great, so I updated that. And since we're in level 2 now, it's time to show you the big thing we've been working on lately, which is a new addition to this level. If you remember, level 1 has these 2 areas where the scrolling stops and you've got to deal with like sub-boss fights for the level. And we don't have any sub-bosses yet, but we've got a pretty cool thing that really adds to the kind of atmosphere of this level and the kind of culture of these enemies you're fighting, these ram men. So you'll see I'm about to come to a spot that's more open without those kind of caves up in the background there. And the scrolling will stop. There we go. So something powerful just lobbed a giant ice boulder at us. And you could see, if you look carefully, there's actually a person encased in ice there. So the story is that these ram men, if they're at war with any particular enemy, if they capture any of their enemies, they'll embed them in these giant ice boulders and through some means send them flying at other enemies to both attack them and demoralize them at the same time. So that was the first kind of introduction of that, and then later on there's one where you get 2 in quick succession, so I'll get there. But we won't say what it is or more about it yet, but there will be kind of a payoff at the end, near the end of this level, where there'll be an actual boss fight and you'll be able to, or sub-boss fight, and you'll be able to actually see what and how these giant ice boulders are getting lobbed at you. So, but,
yeah, and with the bridges too, we had thrown around the idea of the possibility of them hitting the bridges, but we're not sure yet, you know. But we've thought about it, you know, like, or possibly. I also wanted to address the level itself because I believe the tile map in level 1, there's a lot more tiles there going on, graphically speaking, and there's more variety that could be added to this one to give it a little more of a progression like the first level. So hoping to get around to that fairly soon too. So. The
bridge thing is an awesome idea, so we could definitely do that down the line, adding a spot where part of the bridge actually gets taken out and you'd have to jump over it. That would not be very hard to implement, so we'll definitely
I know we were sort of thinking against the idea of like bottomless pits, but you know, we'll see. You know, we could maybe handle that in a way that isn't as
it really would not be hard at all to just
you know
some of the classic arcade and console games, if you fell down a bottomless hole, your character would just like take a point or 2 of damage and then fly back up automatically onto screen like they're jumping back out of that hazardous fall. Or like, you know, respawn up at the top or something. But it definitely wouldn't be that hard to implement. And I think it would be cool. So there's a good chance we'll be seeing that in the future. But I think we'll probably finish the actual sub-boss thing, see how the level feels. And, you know, who knows, like, we definitely have a improve anywhere we see room for improvement as we go kind of development. All our projects are really ones we care about, and we definitely keep going back to things that otherwise we got to a level of finish or near finish and figuring out ways to make it better. So that might be one of those things that we get back to. But then, yeah, there were other small bugs, like some ways you hit the ram men, even though they were displaying their hit or shocked, like electroshocked animation. They would fly back for a second, but even while they were still in that animation, they would start moving forward again, like they suddenly got back their normal walking inertia, which just looked really silly, so I fixed that bug too.
Speaking of bugs, I just now noticed too, while you're playing, apparently when you get the full maximum power in this level, your gauntlet, it goes back to the fire gauntlet. Yeah, so we'll have to address that too.
Yeah, exactly. I noticed that too, and in level 1, when you have the fire cloak, when you duck, the fire cloak disappears until you stand back up. Like that, when I say fire cloak, I mean the way the character is glowing and flickering.
Right. Yeah.
Like it just stops, so there's something missing there. So, but anyway, we keep, not only are we fixing bugs, but we're, you know, playtesting a lot and looking out for all of these things that we continue to improve. So
yeah,
easy
and I think
fixes.
a lot of these are just some things I might have overlooked in certain frames for the character mapping and stuff. So yeah, it's
easy fixes.
Each level, with it having the different powers in Gauntlet, you know, we have to be pretty thorough about making sure that all changes properly, and that speaks to, you know, future things. Is, you know, we've got the other 2 main levels that they're going to have unique powers as well, and gauntlets, so that stuff will be coming up in the near future. So
yeah. And so what we're going to be doing next in MetroSiege, I'm just going to keep at it with those 3 levels we're working on consecutively, cleaning up the art and working with Alex to get all the parallax perfected. And then on the DaemonClaw side, I'm going to continue fixing all these little bugs we find, and then working with Corey to design the different magic powers that the hero gets for each level, and start all that working with placeholder art. Meanwhile, Corey is going to be, we already had a design discussion for the level 2 boss, so he's going to actually start designing the real pixel art for the level 2 boss.
Yeah, I may also get into the means of the sub-boss, potential sub-boss, or what have you for the ice boulder mechanic, so we'll see about that. Yeah.
And the other stuff we've been working on our website, Corey has done a lot of great work revamping and updating a lot of it visually. We also made new slider trailer videos for both MetroSiege and DaemonClaw, so you could see a lot of new footage in there, including level 2 stuff in there, as you can see there. Let's go over to the DaemonClaw one. So you'll see when it gets to level 2, you'll see that it has the snow in there now, which it didn't before. It was really old footage of the level 2. And we're continuing to expand our social media accounts. We're expanding into other social media. We just got on Odyssey, so I'll add that button here soon as well. And we're really at the stage in development of both of these games where it's really time for us to start making a much bigger, more consistent social media push, not just about BitBeamCannon in general, but especially about the progress on these 2 games, and just start to get a lot more awareness of these games and their cool gameplay features and graphics and all that kind of stuff. So if you guys, wherever you're seeing this video, if you've not subscribed yet or click the like button, please do. We really appreciate it, and we'd love your help spreading the word and getting more eyes on these projects as they develop, because things are really going to start to progress quicker. And in that regard, about quicker, we plan on being much more consistent on a more of a schedule and more frequent with our update videos, and also with our making games and construct videos, which we had really slowed down on for a long time. We're going to be getting back into that with a shorter formatted version of those videos, probably in the every 2 weeks or even more frequent window. And that's about it for this update video. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you again soon.
If you enjoy our content and want to keep up to date on our games, please leave a like and subscribe. Also, if you want to support our projects, consider becoming a patron. The link's in the description, and we'll see you soon.